Welcome to the Coda podcast. I'm Rue from Rue Films, and today I'll be speaking with Agne Harris from Agne Harris Films. Agne creates beautifully thoughtful films with human connection at their core. In this chat, we talk through the importance of communication with your couples and the gentle guidance throughout the day so you can create the best possible film for them, and also how to navigate pregnancy whilst being self-employed. Good evening, Agne. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Happy to be here, Rue.
So we're late September now, towards the end of the season. How has it gone for you? How has your 2024 been?
It's been a bit of a weird one, to be honest, because I feel like everyone's coming to the end of their season and I've still got like 8 weddings left, which is a lot for me to have at the end of the year. Normally they're all in June, July, August. This year everything's started a bit later, and I'm wondering if that's just my bookings or if couples are actually thinking, let's save some money and get married in the end of the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Have you found this year that the bookings came in later in general? That
Yes.
it quite a start?
100%. I remember last year I didn't have too many bookings for this year, and towards the end of the year, December, January, I was like, okay, now they're gonna start coming in. And it was it was a pretty slow start to the year. So I feel like this year I took on a lot more associate jobs, a few second shooter jobs, which I've really enjoyed, and I found it really sort of helped just see how other people shoot things, shooting on different profiles. I thought it was quite nice. But then towards the end of the year it has picked up, and I've basically got the same amount of weddings this year that I have every year, kind of, and it just sort of made up that number in the end.
So it's just a little slow start, but in the end you're where you want to be. And what kind of what number is it? How many did you shoot this year?
I shoot around 25, 27 weddings, and it's been like that for I don't know, maybe 6 years. It is around that number all the time. Yeah. I start the year with about 11, and then they pick up as the months roll on.
Oh, okay. So do you get quite a large portion of your bookings, like 50% or so, more than 50% during the year itself?
Yeah, I do. It's weird.
How's your edit queue at the minute? Are you on track with it? Because I think this point in the year is when it's quite heavy, right, in terms of the edits really stacked up.
Yeah, I am never on track with my edit queue. Well, I mean, I know my time scale. I sort of give my clients about 4 to 6 months. And it's just because there's just no time to catch up with everything, and I do kind of take my time with my edits. So I think I've got, at one point I looked at my edit queue and I thought, oh, this is actually really good. So I've just edited a wedding that was 4 months ago, so I thought this is really good. I can take a week off to do like other work that I needed to do, and after that week it was just like, how could I have done this? I've got so much editing to do. I've got like 12 weddings now in my edit queue, but they'll get done. It's okay.
I think that's exactly the same number I'm on at the minute as well, mate. And my delivery is 12 weeks, so I need to get a film out per week to make it work. But have you ever slipped past your kind of contracted time, and how do you deal with that if you do?
I don't really know. I think that's why I've increased my time. Like I do sort of say 4 to 6 months. But because I have, and I heard that you've got an edit queue as well on your website. So I think I started that around the time when I got pregnant, and I knew that it was going to take a lot longer to edit things. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to write down everyone's names, everyone's in the queue. I sort of send it to my couples after their wedding. And then, I say, if you want to see where you are in the queue, you can email me, but you can also just have a look. So please don't email me, because it really stresses me out when I get those emails, even if they start with no rush at all, we just want to know, and immediately you're just like, oh my god, I need to bump them to the top of the queue because they're pestering me.
Exactly. The pressure builds straight away, doesn't it? I find like the same, if I've got that edit queue, I'm not getting any emails now, really. People know where to look and know what's kind of happening. And it keeps me accountable as well. But also, when I tell people, when I say you're there at the top of the queue, I say they should get their film within 2 to 3 weeks. But realistically, it's probably within a week, because I'm actually working on it then, I'd say. Under promise, over deliver. That's the mantra.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't fail with that.
Can we dive into your packages a little bit and what you deliver? Because
Yeah.
I really think it's a good way to frame the conversation, knowing exactly what you do deliver and the kind of like pricing you're working at. Yeah, so I know from your website you do, it's at least 4 packages you do, isn't it? Can you break those down for us?
I've recently changed up my packages. So now then I've got the bronze package, which is a 6-minute film plus the speeches in full, and that's 2.5. And then the step up from that is a 12-minute film plus the full ceremony and the full speeches, and that's 3.5. And then the biggest one is 17 to 20 minutes, and then full ceremony, full speeches. And that's $4,000, I think now, because I have bumped them up. So yeah, I think my most common one is the middle one, the 12-minute film. It sort of incorporates everything. And then people can add on a 1-minute teaser as well if they want, which I used to do with every single package. Because I found out, well, it was years ago, I started talking to a photographer, every photographer at a wedding. And they're always giving out previews to their couples a couple of days after the wedding. They get loads of shares, loads of likes, and loads of people that see their work. And I was sort of saying, yeah, it's good for you, but we can't do anything like that because I can't just give them like a shot of what I filmed. And then I think we started talking and I thought, wait a minute, I can actually give them like a 1-minute teaser. So I started doing those and I found that they really picked up my Instagram and how people found me, especially like the friends of the couple. But then over the years, it started getting more elaborate. The 1-minute teasers were getting a bit longer. They were getting a bit more sort of through the whole day and not just like a couple of slowed down couple shots and stuff. So I decided to sort of add them on as an extra because they started becoming a lot more work. And for some weddings, I felt like some couples didn't really have Instagram. They didn't really care for it. They were more interested in the longer film. So I thought, okay, if people want it, they can add it as an extra. And I feel like nowadays anyway, we're sort of all doing reels, which get a lot more views on Instagram than like a 1-minute teaser. So if it's sort of looking from the aspect of trying to get more people, more of their friends to see it and share it, I find, the reels do that job. And it means I can do whatever I want with them because I'm not promising them anything. So like a confetti shot or...
You can have artistic, creative license with it in terms of rather than accountability for fitting in a speech or maybe something that you didn't actually want to put in there in terms of what you want to show.
Yeah, exactly.
So when people do book the teaser now, how quickly are you turning that around? Are you still doing that quite quickly after the wedding day itself for them?
Yeah, about a couple of days. So after their wedding, I'll send them an email to say, here's the edit cue, congratulations, it's been lovely and everything. And I say, if you do want to add on the teaser, you can do that if you want.
I'd imagine the uptake for that is quite high, right? They're so keen to see something. I bet do majority of them take you up on that offer? Yeah,
well, I find now people are booking it more, so I can't really tell. But the ones that hadn't booked, I'd say 80% of them have added it on, just because they want to see something before, because the wait is quite long, so. But also, from my perspective, it really helps because I get to really thoroughly look through all my footage as I'm doing the teaser, so I know it's all there before I format it. And also, I know that they then see that I've done a good job, and they're not worried about, where's our wedding film? She might have, I don't know, maybe she messed up or something, and now she's sending it to us. So like they know that it's all there, and they just can wait in silence.
Yeah. And how much do you charge for the teaser?
It's £200.
Because I'm quite interested in the teasers, because I have it on add-on for mine, and I'm thinking a move I probably need to go into is similar to how the Lawsons do, where they're doing like a teaser from every single wedding pretty much, and delivering it the next day, getting it out there quick strike while the iron's hot. But I just don't know the workflow of going through it. So what's your workflow for putting a teaser together if someone's booked that, to make sure you're getting it put together in in such a short time frame?
Mm-hmm. So I will come back from a wedding, say Saturday, and Sunday, as I'm doing family stuff, house stuff, I can't work on a Saturday really because I have a 3-year-old.
Oh, right, yeah.
So on the Saturday is when I'm basically going back and forth to my computer and uploading all my cards, creating proxies, just making sure everything's uploaded. And then on the Monday, when everything's on my Final Cut, I first go and keyword everything into my little segments. So I've got like the details. They're basically keyworded so that I could quickly go and find things for the main film, but also mainly for the teaser, because for the main film, I am just going down the list in chronological order. But for the teaser, I want to be able to pull things from different parts of the day. So yeah, I label everything. Because the days just happened, I kind of remember the moments that stuck in my head, especially with like the couple shoot. If there was anything that happened with the guests that was particularly nice, something with the kids or the animals, I always try to include something that's going to strike a chord somewhere. And just in terms of the day in general, like I had a wedding recently where they were getting married in their parents' sort of house garden, and the bride's mom had passed away, and she'd found a letter in her mom's office drawer that was written for her wedding day, and it had like a brooch in there, and she'd had it made into a tiara. And the garden where they were getting married was like the mom had tended to it, so all the flowers there kind of represented her.
Oh,
so
wow.
I included a lot of that in the teaser just because I thought that was such a special part of the day. So yeah, I'll just draw from that, and I'll just throw things in there, kind of chronologically, but more so to feature those like pretty bits and the cute bits. And
yeah. So are you looking for almost like a hook to focus around on for each teaser, rather than where your main films are kind of like all encompassing? Your teasers, you're like looking for like one element that you want to kind of hone in on and kind of focus around that?
Yeah, kind of. And like, I always think it kind of starts with the portraits, because that's going to be the bride and groom in their nicest part of the day. And if there was a nice golden hour shoot, which there usually is, I'll focus in on that, and then pull some other bits like bridesmaids, because I know they'll want to see themselves in it. I'll try and include their parents in it because I know they'll. And that was the problem with the teaser, because I then started thinking too much about what I think that they want to see. And if I've included her mom, I can't then not include his mom. And yeah, that's sort of why now I enjoy doing the reels a lot more, because I can just do completely whatever I want with it without thinking they might message me and say, oh, can you include this or that in it? Because it's just for me, really. So
are you doing a reel for most weddings as well then?
I am now, yeah. I do a reel, but they're like 12 seconds long. And a lot of the times it's either just the confetti walk in slow motion, or like the best, say, 5 shots from their portrait session, or like the venue if it was really cool.
And are you getting that out quite quick after the wedding as well, are you?
Oh yeah, next day, or like the day after, but I try to get it out the next day.
And are they expecting that? Do they know that's happening, or is it just something that you just do? They don't,
No, they don't expect it.
Because they probably won't want to buy a teaser, will they, if they know a reel's coming?
No, I don't think like that. But yeah, maybe. The teaser is just completely different now, though. Like it's a proper story. But yeah, I quite like it, because then they're surprised and they sort of appreciate it a lot more when they see the reel.
So the teasers, are you posting them on your Instagram, or is it not all of them?
Yeah, I post them on my Instagram, and I collab with them, and I send them the file too, obviously, so they can actually have it and share it with people that are not on Instagram. But it started out as something that I would just post on Instagram, and it would be like a little present to them to just have on top of their package.
Yeah.
And it's just stayed that way, but now it's an extra.
Oh, right.
It still comes out on my Instagram, because
sorry for obsessing about this, but I really am interested in how people like kind of make the most of social media, mainly because I'm so terrible at it. And I did notice that on your grid, I'll see a reel and it'll be of a wedding, and then the next post will be like a longer form, like a 1 minute version of that. So that's clearly your reel and then your teaser back to back, because you do those quite closely after the wedding, so they'll be the last 2 things you worked on. And the reel, are you using the audio that's built within Instagram itself? Just put the track over the top of it, so you're just getting muted footage, putting it in there, and then just adding a track.
Yeah, I try to, for the reels, I really, really want to make it as simple for myself as possible. So I'm trying not to count that as work. It's more of like, just have something from the day until I can organize myself to actually do a teaser. So I don't even know what song I'm editing to. I will edit it and then I'll go on Instagram, scroll for ages to find a song that fits nicely, get annoyed that the pace is different from my film, maybe go and re-edit it. I don't know. Sometimes it takes a while, but sometimes you just go on and you find the song immediately and you post it and it gets, Try to collaborate with as many, as many suppliers as you can.
That's the big one, isn't it? And do you put story up as well and tag people in that to hope that they share as well?
Yeah, I try. I forget the story bit of this all the time because I always feel like, well, it's come out. I don't need to like double share it. But obviously, I do. So when I remember, and it's probably a bit later on in the day, I'll be like, oh yeah, look, I've posted something. So I do that on the stories as well. But people are pretty good, especially like the makeup artists and the hair people, because it's sort of, and the florists, because you can see so much of their work in little videos. So they're really good about resharing stuff.
I always find that always the makeup artists and the hair are always resharing like my stories and reels and stuff, that they help push my stuff quite far, which is great stuff. The tease that you did, how are you picking your song for your teaser? Does the song for the teaser then become part of their main film as well, or is it just something completely different?
It's completely different. So because the teasers all go on my Instagram, I try to pick a new song every time, or a song that I haven't used in a long time. So I use music from Soundstripe. I've got a subscription and I find it works for me. I know a lot of people use Musicbed. I know you do. So I use Soundstripe and I just go down the list and try and see something that pops out at me. It could take a while, but you can just feel the vibe. Like, you just know whether it works or it doesn't, if it needs violins or if it needs a guitar. Or I've got my little list of songs that work for the different parts of the wedding film, and I kind of repeat those songs when they work. There's quite a wide list anyway, but so they don't get repeated too often. And if I've got a client that has been to a wedding of mine before, like if they were recommended, I then make sure that
a friend of a former bride or whatever,
yeah, or like her sister or someone, I have to then go back and make sure that the songs don't overlap. But
absolutely, flag it in the database. We can't be using the same 3 songs in this one.
But I do get bored of the songs, so I especially nowadays, like towards the end of the season, I have been going back onto Soundstripe for every wedding and seeing if I could find some new songs to use, because I don't like getting bored editing my films.
Just to keep yourself sane as well after hearing the same songs over and over. But also it's an essential process, isn't it? Because if we were having to look for new songs for every single wedding, then you just never get any films out the door, would you? It's just the hardest bit of the job, looking for songs, I swear. Yeah.
It sets so much of the pace of the vibe of the whole thing. Like sometimes I'd be editing to a song and halfway through just feel like I'm just not feeling it. There's something wrong with this. And then change the song, and then it works, and you sort of, you have to catch yourself out as well a little bit. Yeah,
I've had that as well, where I know full well this song isn't working, but I'm trying to battle it. I'm thinking, no, maybe it's fine. But then you have to just admit to yourself, now I'm going to have to stop this and redo it all. And it's heartbreaking. But then once you get that new song and it fits, like that, the edit actually becomes easier, doesn't it? Because you're not battling against the music.
Yeah, 100%.
And the package that you said the most popular package is, did you say it's the 12-minute film, is it?
Yeah.
And so can you remind me, how much was that one again? Sorry.
That one's £3,200.
The format of that, so being 12 minutes, are you talking, is that something around like 3 songs that make that up? And does it kind of fit into like a prep, ceremony, reception party kind of structure?
It's very much, it's 4 songs. So about 3 minutes of getting ready, about 3 minutes of ceremony, and then the mingling, which then sort of like the pace picks up of people chit-chatting, hugging. And then it goes into the dinner, everybody cheersing, doing this, doing the speeches, but not actually the sound, because the speeches I use underneath the whole film. And then into cake cutting, first dance, and the party. So 4 songs.
And with that one, did you say what are you delivering on the side? You said speeches in full. Do they get the ceremony in full with that one as well?
Yeah, full ceremony and full speeches.
I always like to know how people set up for their multicams. I just find it massively interesting. You're a 3-camera shooter, aren't you?
Yeah.
And what's your normal setup for a ceremony?
Yeah, it's very basic. I think it's the same as most videographers. I mean, if it's at a church, my favorite thing at a church is when the bride comes in from the side and then turns. And that means I could put a camera down at the back. It's my favorite thing to see in a church. So that I've got a camera at the back, which is on like a 50, and it can make sure that it's got all the speakers on either side. And then I see if I can put one down facing the groom, which is a bit more wide so that it can capture some of their guests. And then I've got the third one on me on a monopod. So I've actually got 2 of the Sure monopods and a tripod. So...
Oh, okay. So you got two monopods during the speech. So you've got like an unmanned camera on a monopod.
Yeah.
Has it ever fallen?
Yeah. It has, and I've sort of just it has during a ceremony.
Fall from a distance.
Yeah, I heard it fall behind me, and everyone turned around, and I just carried on filming, being like, "That wasn't me. I don't know what that was," and then just slowly looked back and picked it back up. I have had some times where it was windy and it sort of started to move around a little bit. But no, for the most part, it's been great because I can hide it so easily behind, like, if they've got like a flower arch or some columns or something, it can just hide there very nicely. And it's not such an eyesore because I'm always very conscious. I can avoid it for the most part in my shots, but I hate the thought of photographers having to like Photoshop my tripods out because they're such an eyesore. But yeah.
It's easy for them these days.
I know, it is these days, isn't it? Give them more work to do, actually. More tripods. Every ceremony is different. You just have to arrive and see where everything is. To be honest, I will faff around with my cameras over and over again, deciding where to put each camera and what lens to put on each camera because I just can't decide. But right before everything starts, I more or less leave everything and it does a good job. And then, for the speeches, literally same as everyone, a wide shot on the main table and like most of the guests, not most of the guests, but like a quite wide shot to see everyone cheersing and clapping and everything. Yeah. And then the speaker and the couple reaction. I do try to make the speaker shot quite nice so that it doesn't jump out.
I really noticed that in your work. The shot of the speaker is always quite beautiful, and if I was going to guess, maybe a 50mm, but sometimes it looked like you're quite close with a 35. Is it what kind of photo length are you generally using on that?
A 50 or an 85. So right. I've only just this summer got the 35mm. I'm very minimal with my kit in general, so I've got my 50 is probably my most comfortable lens. And then I've got the 85. And up until this summer as well, I used the Samyang 85, which is all manual focus. Yeah. But then I decided to get an actual autofocus 85 lens so that I could leave it and trust that it can focus on people, like leave it unmanned on my other cameras. Yeah. So I've got that lens now. And then I got the 35. So now I've started doing the more wide shots with it. But I'm not a big fan of filming with wider lenses up close. I don't like how it makes people look. So I try to keep those lenses quite further away from people. But yeah, it's either the 50 or the 85 now.
Because it must be the 50 that I was seeing then, but it was quite close. Like I'm trying to think where you must be positioned. I'd imagine your camera must be positioned in between guests and the speaker as well, kind of up tight to them. And it was a brilliant shot, like beautiful, like really nice and immersive with their distance. So, can you think of the one I'm thinking of, like the film?
I'm trying to think because I sent you quite a few. I can't really think, but
I've seen it more than one as well. It's in two of the films that I've seen of yours. One where they're in a teepee and behind them are the band and like the bar. Yes. And then there's another one where the guy It's got kind of
I know
reddish
the one
hair,
you mean.
and it was a winter wedding, and they were, and he was very extravagant and dancing around. And
yeah. So that one in the teepee, they had a pole in the middle of the teepee, and it was the pole and then guests on either side and then the speaker. So I had to either be behind the pole and be filming the pole or be in front of it and be filming the speaker, but it was quite close. So I think that one I did use. I didn't have my 35 then yet. Maybe I did. It might have been a 35, because it was quite a wide shot. Maybe you're right.
Yeah. It felt like
I
a
think
35.
It was because I was that close to him. I needed to, and he kept moving side to side. And when they do that, I'm like, that's it. You're going on a wide angle. I can't be dealing with this anymore.
Would you autofocus for that kind of, for a moving speaker? Or for speeches in general, do you autofocus or do you lock it off in manual?
I lock it off if I'm not there. If the camera's on me, then I do the tracking bit, and it's like tracking their eyeball. But for the other cameras, I do put it back onto manual in case someone moves and it just starts jumping.
Yeah, someone stands up. It's always a bold guy as well. I feel like I can say that as a bold guy myself. It's always a bold guy that stands up in the wrong button. It's just bouncing off their head, reflecting. Always.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you say the 15mm, that's the main lens that you're using throughout the day, is it? Is that like on your A cam?
Yeah, I find it's either the 50 or the 85. I mean, if you're in a tight room, it's I do put the 35 on, but I do try to keep that to a minimum. The wider lenses, though I really am enjoying the 35. I mean, I could have added it to my camera bag a lot sooner than this year. I really do love it. But yeah, the 50 and the 85.
Because I've noticed, there must be, because a lot of your work on your Instagram recently has got a lot more wider shots in. So that must be your new love affair with this 35. So you're throwing in a few more shots from there.
Yeah, I'm starting to appreciate wider shots a bit more, just because, I don't know, show a bit more of the venue, the atmosphere. I've been, for a very long time, and I see this when I look back in my older films, I've been quite tight on people, which I still like. I've recently done a few nice venues that are quite sort of extravagant, beautiful manor houses, and you want to capture that atmosphere. And then you think that people getting married, like we go to barns every weekend and manor houses and teepees, like we see these all the time. And I forget that for the people getting married there, it's still a novelty, and to them, they do want to see more of that atmosphere in their film. So I need to remind myself of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think as well, the people's attitudes are changing to imagery of themselves in general. I think people want to see more of the whole thing. Like, because when people take a selfie, they're always taking it in portrait mode, and they're always trying to get full lengths, aren't they? I think so. I feel like people like to see themselves in full length. So, but the way I shoot, I'm kind of like mid shot on everybody, pretty much. I'm cutting all those things out, so it feels like maybe a bit more wide shots need to come into work to be able to move with the times and what people want.
But then also, when you're making reels, you do need more of that space, don't you, to cut down to the little tiny things. So I think that's added to it a lot as well. To thinking, if I want to feature any of this on a reel, I do need the shots to be wider, and then I end up liking them for the main film as well. So yeah.
Would you ever film some things like portrait to fit into a reel?
Nah, no, can't be bothered with all that.
And going back onto like just quickly, your audio, what are you using to capture audio?
The TX 650s, 660s. Yes. Put them onto people like everybody does. Yeah.
We're all the same.
Yeah, we're all the same. I'm not saying anything new. And they are embarrassing to clip onto grooms. And I always tell them during the Zoom call, I'm going to put this in your pocket. So don't be surprised when I approach you, and make sure that your pocket's unstitched. And they still never do. And we're there like ripping their pockets apart.
That's a good shout though, to kind of prepare them for it. Though, so do you find you don't get any resistance now that you're telling people beforehand that this needs to happen?
Yeah, a lot less. They expect me, but also a lot of the times I'm having these calls with just the bride, and she forgets to tell them, so they do sometimes look surprised. But I did have an idea to spray paint one of them like a cream color, so that if the groom has like a white suit or like a cream suit, it doesn't stand out so much. But yeah, I am holding out for them to make a better version with like a thinner little handle.
God, that's what we all want. That's what we all. I'm really interested. Do Sony even know what we're using these dictaphones for, though? Do they know? Do they care? Hi guys, it's Rue here. Just briefly interrupting the episode to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Musicbed. Musicbed really is the best platform for licensing music for your wedding films. They have a huge database of amazing songs and brilliant search control, so you can really hone in on the type of song that you need for your edit. Chatting to all these incredible filmmakers during the podcast, one of the repeated themes that I've noticed is that they're all using Musicbed to license their music. I myself have been using it for the last 6 years and really don't think there's anything else in the market that comes close. If you'd like to try Musicbed out for yourself, click the link in the description and you'll get a 14-day free trial where you can download and keep 3 songs to use in your projects, and you can see firsthand how good the music selection is. Now let's get back to the episode. So how did you find your way into wedding filmmaking? What was your journey?
My journey with cameras started quite early. So when I was about 12 maybe, our family had like a little camcorder that we filmed things with. And I'm Lithuanian, so I moved with my mom and dad from Lithuania to the UAE when I was 8. And because we lived there, we used to film a lot of stuff. Well, I used to film a lot of stuff. And then like when we'd go back to visit, we'd show people. And then when we were in Lithuania, we'd film a lot there and then come back to Dubai and show our friends there. So I feel like I was always filming things and making music videos and adverts and scary films and I don't know, whatever we were doing. So I loved creating films, and my parents were skydivers, and my dad used to film all the jumps that they used to do. He actually made this like helmet that would fit a massive camcorder in it.
Before the days of GoPros.
It was a proper like big camera. And then at home he used to edit his the films together to add music to them by like putting the not the aux cable, the jack cables in to the VHS, to the camcorder, and then to the stereo so that you could do the music. And I saw him doing all of this. So it's sort of like, I was quite interested in all of that. A very, very like simplistic way to edit. But then I started editing my films like that, adding music onto them while I was recording them onto the VHSs. And then I went on from school to study filmmaking at Royal Holloway University in Surrey. And then after that, when I graduated, I had like a director's diploma, which like,
oh, nice.
What do I do with that? Like, who wants for me to direct a film? So I studied directing screen fiction, which then looking back, I probably would have done better with like documentary filmmaking, but that was a different course. And I didn't really know what to do with that. So it was just kind of applying to studios here and there and not really hearing anything back. And then my parents, as a graduation present, got me the Canon 60D. I think it was like the first professional camera, like the lowest grade professional camera at the time. And I started taking pictures of it, of my friends doing this and that. And eventually I started emailing a bunch of photographers saying, oh, do you maybe want an assistant or someone to shadow you, or someone give me a job, please? And one of them was a wedding photographer, Claire Morris, got back to me and said, yeah, sure, I could use a second shooter. Come along, I'll train you up. So it was really random. I didn't even know that that wedding photography, videography was a big thing. I just sort of applied to be a photographer for someone. And I ended up working with her for a year. And after about a year of second shooting, getting quite good at the photography side of it, I was like, what am I doing? I actually really want to film things. I do really prefer capturing the moments than just the snapshots. So she said, all right, so the next wedding we're shooting isn't that, I don't need you that much, so you can film some little bits and pieces for the bride and groom. We won't tell them, but then afterwards you can make them a little film and then we'll show them and see if they're happy for you to share it. So we did that. And yeah, I made them like a 3-minute film. I missed the couples portraits because I was off shooting like the guests. So I got just like one shot of them far away, just like walking in a field. I was like, yeah, okay, that'll do. But it ended up being quite a nice film, like lots of funny moments from guests and grandparents and kids. And yeah, it was quite a cute film. That was 12 years ago. So looking back on it, it's like very very different from what I do now, but it's still got a lot of heart. I'm still quite proud of it. But yeah, that was that. They loved it. So then they let me share it and do what I want with it. And then
was this all under your own brand? Were you under? Was it Claire? Did you say that was?
It was Claire. Yeah. So this wasn't. It wasn't really for me at all. It was under Claire's brand, and it went onto her website. And I think then she started offering this add-on for me to do video for people, but it was all through her brand. And I think I did a couple of videos for her, and then she moved away to Paris, and I moved to Bath. I was in Leeds at the time. I moved around quite a bit. And every time I moved, I had to rebrand.
Oh, no, yeah.
You always like, when you're starting out, you're always like, Agne's wedding photography Leeds. That's your website. Yeah. And then you're Agne's wedding photography, videography, Bath.
Really honing in on that SEO.
Yeah. And then really kicking yourself when you have to move from that town. So then, I had to move to Bath. I had to change up all my branding and website and everything. And it wasn't quick, but it slowly picked up. And now I'm in Northamptonshire. And I've stopped naming my website according to where I live. So I'm hoping that will just stay that way for a while.
You finally learned after all the moves just to keep it generic. And so when you finally started up on your own, when you moved to Bath, and how did you get those first weddings? Was it through word of mouth? Was it social media?
I did quite a lot of work on my SEO. I think I did my website by myself. I did all of the keywording in the website. I feel like that helped a little bit. I was on Facebook a lot. I did a lot of free things for people. I filmed events, filmed photo shoots, and then got the word of mouth out like that. I think to be honest, it just seems a bit of a whirlwind. I don't really remember how exactly it happened. It was just bits and pieces. But I found I kept going back up north because there was a lot of people from back when I lived there that were recommending me, because every time I moved, all the friends I had made that were like, oh, she does video, she could do this for you. They all stayed in Leeds, and then I was down south, and suddenly it wasn't like, oh, Agne can just nip over and film this event for us.
That's the thing with this job, isn't it? It's slow moving in terms of your work, because the work that you're booking is based on your previous bookings for the most part. So it's kind of, if you do move locations, it takes a while to be able to move the work to the new location as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly that.
I'm going to take a wild guess here based on how you shoot. Are you similar to me? Are you a former student of Phil White's?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's that kind of the way you use light and shadow. But I've seen it evolve in your work. So I guess how a lot of us were, learning from Phil, a lot of us very much adopted his style. But it's very much transitioned now, and I'd kind of say that your work is moving more towards the editorial style. Would you think that's a fair assessment?
Maybe, maybe it's not something that I'm conscious of, but I feel like maybe that is the case. And I do think that nowadays weddings generally are more aware of that style of shooting, and they expect it from their photographers. And I think it probably came about during COVID when people were doing stage-styled shoots because weddings weren't happening. And then all of that went out into the media, and then it was what people expected of their photos because that was so much of what was on everyone's feed. It really depends on the couple and the photographer. A lot on the photographer.
Yeah.
Because I don't really if the photographer is doing something and it's not something that I need for my video, I don't really say to the couple, right, we're going to go away for 15 minutes after this to just do some video. Sort of just try to adapt with what's going on.
Yeah, because it's a lot to ask of people, isn't it? I'm the same. I mean, I'm happy to jump in if I need to get little bits and bobs, but at the same time, I don't want to be dragging out the photo shoot for too long. You know, it's a case of so quite often. But also, I found like happy accidents from kind of adapting to what the photographer was doing. I thought I've shot in a different way, and I thought, oh, I actually quite like this.
yeah, definitely. It keeps things interesting, and I feel like if you're on the photographer's good side, which I mean, I often become like best friends with the photographer on the day, just because you work so closely together, and then by the time the photo shoot comes along, the portrait session, you're on each other's side, so you can always say like, oh, can I just jump in for a minute? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm always there trying to make the couple laugh and to like forget that they're posing, because that's one thing I that doesn't work for my video, is people sort of just doing something either repetitively. I mean, this doesn't work for any video, I don't think, but anything too serious, I just want them to like forget that they're being photographed. And that's something I always try to say to the photographers is, when you put your camera down and you want to speak to the couple about the next thing, try not to walk up to them, because that's like the natural thing that they do, because that's the bit that I want to be
that's
shooting.
When we get our best stuff, isn't it? In that, you're like, don't walk in there yet. Just give them some time.
Yeah. It's the bits in between. They can still hear you. Just stand there. I do also try to say to the couple as we're walking off to the portrait session, like, even when we talk to you and we tell you to get into some position or do something, try not to look at us while we're saying that stuff. Like, just carry on what you're doing. And it helps, because then you can actually use those moments without them being like, what? What did you say? Hand here? Okay.
Looking at you completely confused. Yeah, I get that quite a lot.
Yeah.
And are you shooting handheld most of the day? I know you said monopod for the ceremony and speeches, but handheld.
Yeah, monopod just for the ceremony and speeches. I moved over to handheld when I moved over to the Sonys from the Canons, because they were a lot lighter. So I ditched the monopod. Because I used to have a Manfrotto monopod for the whole day, but it used to get in the way. I'd like to quickly move around and not bump into people if I can.
It's liberating, isn't it, going handheld, like moving over without on a stick attached. And what is it Sony's you're shooting on now? What cameras are you using?
The Sony A7S IIIs.
Oh, nice. You got 3 of them?
No, I've got 2 of them, and one of them is the A7 III, which does have the 30-minute time limit. So
what a camera though, cracking camera. Like, I've still got one of mine, which I just can't bring myself to get rid of it because I'm so emotionally attached.
Yeah,
but quite baller though, mate, having 2 A7S IIIs, right?
Yeah,
living the dream.
Living the dream. It's every year for a little bit, but I keep my cameras for a long time, and then when I have to upgrade them, I do, but I never know what the next thing is that's come out or what's coming out. I'm very tech not savvy. Like, I think I said to you on a message, I only just now got a drone, and I'm sort of like, look at my drone footage. Everyone's been using drones for years, like 10 years.
How have you found it, bringing that into your workflow? Has it been difficult to add a new element, or you like it?
I do love it. It's just a fun part of the day. It's like my little sidekick that lives in the back of the car, and I'm like, it's time for you to fly, my pretty. And I launch it, and all the dads and the granddads circle around me, and they're like, what have you got there? Everyone's amazed by it. I'm like, it's my drone.
Just had it for ages, mate.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
This old thing.
Yeah.
And which drone is it you got? Is it the DJI Mini 4 Pro or something?
Yeah, it's that one.
What a guess.
Yeah, what a guess. Look at you. Yeah,
I swear I've not been rummaging through the boot of your car.
Yeah, that's the one. It's really good as well. Like, I couldn't fly it into a tree if I tried. I tried to land it onto the roof of my car, but there were some branches that were near and it wouldn't land, and there was grass everywhere around. And the ceremony was starting in like 15 minutes, and I was just outside. I was like, how the hell do I land this thing? It's refusing to land. And then I tried to land it on my palm, But as soon as I went like this, it just flew up. And then I learned that you have to like flip it over. But it was, anyway, so it's very safe because it will not fly into any objects that are in the way. So I'm very happy about that because it's so easy. It's so simple. I feel like I've been waiting for the right drone to come out that I don't need to have courses for, and I can just let it fly circles around the venue and not worry about crashing into a tree. So
can you break down your approach to the day and how you shoot it and what you're kind of like, what you're looking for, what you're looking to capture?
I very much like, I turn up on the day to the bride's getting ready address, and I'm like, my main goal during that morning, as well as capturing the beautiful shots, is just to sort of make everyone feel at ease around me, because I want to be able to stand not too close to people, but on a 50, let's say, to capture people's emotions and their laughters throughout the whole day. And in order to do that, I kind of need them to know that I'm there and I'm their friend, and I'm not going to film them smoking or chewing or doing something like unflattering. So I really try to sort of get in there, make people feel comfortable, and film all of those little moments that happen between people, as long as well as like the details, the atmosphere, like the venue, the most important parts. But I'm always on the lookout for those like interactions between people that they're going to look back on and think, yeah, that's my granddad. That's always what he laughed like or spoke like. And
that's what I really noticed in your work is beautiful human connection, but scattered with incredible detail shots. And you always seem to get a banging shoe shot in most of your films, I've noticed. They're always a nice shoe shot in some beautiful light. But as well as that, it's not necessarily details in terms of things. It's something that gives a sense of the location of the environment. Really nice compositions, and I've noticed that seems to be a repeating theme in all your work. Like, you're looking for a creative shot, semi-abstract, which gives a sense of the venue, but it's not just a shot of a building. It's a room with some nice light or something like that. Is that something you're always trying to seek out?
Yeah, you've really hit the nail on the head with that. So especially the shoe shot, I've always said to myself that like I use that shot to try and show the venue without showing the venue. So put the shoes into somewhere that I really like about the place. Yes. And sometimes there's not a lot to choose from, but there will be like a chair somewhere. And I'll go and I'll really like hone in on that chair with those shoes to try and make them look like someone's just placed them there.
Yeah.
So, and I try to use the details in that way as well to showcase like a nice table for the perfume or for the invites, like a nice wall or something. So I'm not a huge fan of flat lays for my films, just because I want to scatter those details and put them into more places to get more shots out of them to show the atmosphere.
That's really interesting. I've never considered the idea, and that's like, now you say it, that's totally what I'm seeing in when I see like those shoe shots, and that's why I like them. They're in an environment, and it's a bit of a wider shot rather than just a tight of the shoes, but a really interesting way of doing it and bringing in elements of the location as well. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to nick that.
Go ahead, all yours. Because I try to make the detail shots not just a fact shot of like, that's what the shoes are like, but more of, showing something else about the place. And also there are some shoes in that spot as well. So,
So it's a beautiful kind of almost abstract shot of an object, but it's giving context of the location for the story as well.
Yeah, I'm glad that comes across.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. I was like, there's another nice shoe shot. There's another nice shoe shot. Every single, always look completely different, but really good. I was like, she must be walking off 45 minutes with these shoes.
Sometimes it takes a while.
Yeah, find that perfect spot.
Yeah,
but these are all different films. Like, you only see one shot per film. I'm not saying like there's loads of shoe shots in one film. It was all different ones, but yeah.
Oh, you should see the amount of shots I have to filter through. There's like 5 different shoe shots in different places to
get that.
I
perfect
recently did
one.
I recently did a poll on my stories. I was editing and I was just like, right, I'm going to use my audience to help me pick shots, and I would just be like, this one or that one, this one or that one. And people loved it. I was like, I need to do this more often because it actually makes my work so much easier. Yeah.
Crowdsourcing the culling on your wedding.
Yeah.
I like the idea of that. That's a new package. Your guests edit the film for you.
Yes. Nothing I can do about it.
So what I find also interesting, obviously ask what you are looking for on a wedding day. I also like to ask, what are you not looking for? So what are some of your pet peeves in terms of weddings and things that you don't want to be filming?
Things that I don't want to be filming. I don't really film a lot of the group shots other than like the bridesmaids and the groomsmen, because there's actually something fun happening there. But I always feel like I should be. So I linger around for a little bit, but then go and shoot some guests having a good time.
Yeah.
I don't really like a lot of the, like I said before, the staged portrait sessions where they do like a dip. I don't like the dip for a film.
Dips are a struggle for video, aren't they? A real struggle.
They are. They look great on a photo, but for the video, the couple have to either know exactly what they're doing and don't hold the dip for too long, get straight back up, or just don't put it in the film. But they're always so keen to do the dip. They're like, we've been practicing it.
Doesn't look like it. How awful the dip is. And it ruins a good confetti run. It ruins a good aisle walk.
Yeah, just don't do it. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Don't freeze and do something for the camera for too long. I don't really avoid too much for filming on the day. I have more pet peeves about things that happen on a wedding day, but I can't help. Like registrars.
Go in, have a rant for me.
The registrars that speak over the vows, before the couple have finished saying what they're saying, and it's normally the bride, then the registrar says the next sentence. I'm like, I can't edit you out now. Why are you rushing them? It's so embarrassing for you. Yeah. Hate that.
That it's always good. Like you say, that the grooms, I also have had it where the registrar has broken down the sentence for them to say into patronizing small increments, to the point where the bride is confusing the bride and groom even more because they're having to say a sentence in like 2-word intervals.
Yeah, exactly. And they sort of look at each other like, do you want me to repeat this one word now, or are you going to say anything else?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
and then when you come to the edit, you're like, wow, this is all unusable.
Yeah. Might as well just use a speech there instead.
Let's talk about your editing a little bit, because I always like to know people's time frames on that. Can you break down for your kind of workflow and kind of how much time each section is taking you to complete?
Sure. So by the time I come to my main edits, I will have already done all the keywords and made sure that all my footage is sort of organized in that way. And then I will cull everything down onto a timeline. I think I've heard a lot of people do it this way. Basically go through every shot, in and out points, drag it onto the timeline, and just do that for the whole of the wedding, except for the speeches, because I do that last. So that, I don't know why, but that normally takes me about 2 days. It just takes me a while, because I don't really...
Doing the culling?
Yeah, just doing the culling, and I don't... It is literally just dragging clips that I think I might use, but I still spend some time on them in terms of like, would I use that bit or that bit? That bit or that, like jumping back and forth. So it does take me a while. Then once I've done that, I will listen through all the speeches and pick out the best parts that I want to use in the film. So that all goes on to the very end of my timeline. Oh, bear in mind, by then I would have already edited the ceremony and the speeches multicam edits.
Are you doing that before the call? Oh, that okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I was just focusing on the feature film. But yeah, so after I've done the teaser, then there's a long gap. And then when I get back to the edit, I will then do the ceremony multicam, which will take me about a day, maybe a bit quicker. The speeches, which will take another day, maybe a bit quicker. And And I recently started doing that during my busy season. So when I don't really have time to concentrate on like a full feature film, I'll just quickly get some ceremony and speeches out of the way so that I've got something to send off to my clients. But there's never a time limit on that. They don't know that they're going to get that a bit sooner. So I edit those, I send those out to them just to say, you've got these a bit earlier, but there's still a bit of a wait for the main film.
The speeches and ceremony, so you sometimes send those out first?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
And so let's say that their wedding was about a month ago, and now I've got some time. I don't have some time, but I've got some, like a week where I know I'm not going to be able to get like a feature film done. So I just spend a couple of days doing some ceremony and speeches off my list, send those out so that people have something to look back on. And then there's another little gap for them to wait through, which is also something I started doing just this year, end of last year, after speaking to another videographer, because I used to wait until I did all 3 films and then upload everything together and send everything off together.
Yeah.
But I find doing it this way, it's sort of, again, it gives them something else to look at and enjoy while they wait. Makes me feel like there's, like a bit of a
I'd be worried that people would be watching the speeches and then start telling me what they want in the film from the speeches and stuff.
That hasn't happened yet. But no, it hasn't happened. But I know what you mean. And I used to think I don't want them to hear the speeches before they see the film, because I want them to hear the speeches in the film first.
Yeah.
And sort of enjoy them that way. But because their film is going to be another couple of months, I'm sure they will have forgotten by then, hopefully.
If they've even watched them, because I always wonder, do you like, especially
sometimes they don't.
When they get the films, do they watch like would they sit through an entire ceremony again? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. If it's like 45 minutes, I don't know if they do. They send them off to their grandparents probably, but
send them off into the grandparents and never look at them again. Yeah, so you've done your multicams, you've done your culling, and then is it on to like making the actual feature film itself? Because like we said, with your packages, you got the teasers, but then it's only one film you're making, isn't it? And that length is determined on what package I've bought.
So once I've done the culling and chosen the parts of the speeches that I'm going to use, I then cut down the speeches so that they're each about 2 minutes long. It sort of always ends up being that anyway, because each of them will go into one of those segments that we spoke about. So if there's 4 segments, 3 speeches, one of the segments is the ceremony, so none of the speeches go in there. So they sort of each fit the length of a song, those parts of the speeches. Then I find the music. I compound clip my music with the speeches so that it's just one file at the bottom of the timeline. So whatever I move, like the audio just stays on the bottom. Yeah, and then it's down to just culling making all the, 40-minute timeline, bringing it back down to 10 minutes.
Just chipping away at it to bring it all
away,
out.
Make it all match the beat, and bringing out the parts of the speeches that I want to be shown in the film, making them seen.
So how long is it taking start to finish then, that whole process?
If I had a whole week of just doing that, it would take about 5 days if I did that every day. So about 2 days for the culling, then like the 3rd day to really figure out where everything's going to go, which songs, which speeches go in which locations. Once all of that's in place, the skeleton of the thing, it's quite easy to then chip away at all the footage. It's just getting the second step of putting the music and the speeches together in the right order so that they have that 12, 13 minute time scale.
Yeah.
That's the hardest bit,
isn't it?
bit.
Like I always call that story, like as in like the music and the audio. So it's almost like a podcast of the wedding, basically. Just all the audio bits, and then you're sprinkling all that visual stuff over the top. But I always find once I've got that story in place, dropping B-roll, it like I could do it in a couple of hours probably. It's just because it's all there. It's easy to drop on top, isn't it? But all the hard work goes into creating a nice flow through the audio process, isn't there?
Yeah, that's the hard bit. And then once I think that sort of the final bit takes a couple of days as well, bringing everything back down to that time, And then like the final day to tweak all the audio, the colors, all the extra bits, the stabilization of shots.
Yeah.
Everything, the wonkiness of shots that need fixing. Sometimes
so you'd sort all the horizons out and things like that. You're quite particular because I always your compositions are always like there's lots of symmetry, lots of nice straight lines and things. So that's clearly quite important. I can tell from your work. But are you like me? Have you got one leg shorter than the other?
Yeah. My dad used to tell me that every time he'd look at my photos. He says, yeah. But I think everyone does. Everyone just holds the camera a bit wonky, but I am always fixing them. I just can't stand things looking wonky. But that takes a while. So I use an adjustment layer for my project before I start doing anything so that I could see with the LUT and the color correction what it's going to kind of look like. I still have to tweak all my individual shots, but I like to see on the timeline as I'm dropping things in there. Because it also helps choose between two shots sometimes. When you add your LUT onto something, it looks a bit different. One of them looks maybe better. The shoe shots that I filmed so many of.
Like beautiful shoe shots. How can I choose between them? What are you shooting in a log, or is it just a tweaked profile, or?
No, not in log. I haven't moved over to that yet. I shoot in picture profile 1, but I don't know if it's the one that's on the camera or I've tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah,
it's just PP1 on my camera, but
yeah. And it's a bit for a grade. You got is your grade an adjustment layer over the top, and then just some tweaks in terms of like exposure and things like that.
Yeah, so I've got a LUT on there, and then some like saturation things. I've also got a layer with like noise. I
was going to ask that. So like a bit of a film grain look. Yeah.
I've got quite.
Nice
I've looked
texture.
at. Yeah, I quite like that. It sort of sends the footage back a little bit. I don't know, makes it less crisp,
less digital, less digital looking, isn't it? And is that the kind of grade? Is that kind of like the final stage of the process? Is it pretty much?
Yeah, I'll listen to everything. So shot by shot, I'll do the audio adjustments because I do like to leave in the natural audio of the day, except for the portraits where I'm shouting at the couple that they look amazing. And the dancing, obviously don't want to hear that, but the rest of the day I try to leave the audio layer in, unless there's like music playing loudly in the background, then I'll have to mute it. But I like hearing people sort of laughing and chit-chatting. So there's always a fine line between the music, the speeches, and then the people talking. I'm always like trying to balance those out to not be in the way of each other.
Yeah, so not competing too much. It's hard, isn't it? Because I'm trying so desperately to bring more ambient sounds into my film, because I think it adds it levels up your work, doesn't it? But I'm just going through a phase of destroying on-camera microphones. But are you using have you got an additional microphone added to your camera to capture that, or are you just using the onboard cameras, onboard microphones?
I've just got the onboard microphone, and I've got some little wind mufflers on there as well. They look like koala ears, and they really do help, because when I bought my new camera, I hadn't put them on yet, and I could really hear the wind in all of my shots when it was out like a windy day. I was like, I really need to stick on some of those ear muffs on them.
Those koala ears.
Yeah, the koala ears do a good job.
Yeah. I guess that's what I'm doing now. I haven't got the koala ears on mine, but I'm just having to use the onboard camera because, like I say, I keep breaking the leads because I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't be trusted with wires.
No, wires are the worst.
Yeah.
When I did a wedding, this must have been like my 3rd wedding ever, 11 years ago, and they asked if I could film the full ceremony and speeches, and I said, yeah, sure, I'd do it for free. I was just starting out. And I borrowed my friend's microphone that, clipped on top of the camera. And I tested it. It all worked great. Filmed the ceremony. And at that time, I had one camera that I'd put to the side to film everything. And the other camera, I would just pick up and record the most important bits. And I wasn't filming everything. I was just shooting bits and pieces. And then as people were filing in for the dinner to start the speeches, I was looking through my second camera to see how well it had filmed the ceremony. And I realized there was no sound on it at all because the mic hadn't properly been pushed in. So it recorded nothing. So I think ever since then I've been a bit worried about mics. I know you just use headphones and make sure that everything is crisp and good.
Yeah, but on a wedding day, who's got time for that? Like,
yeah, I try to keep things as minimal as I can so that, just less things to worry about. And they're good enough, those.
Is that why you go for a monopod, as an extra monopod as well? Because it's just easier to set up as another angle rather than messing with a tripod. You can be quicker. Yeah,
definitely. And I also because it takes up less space. Yeah. But it is also a lot quicker to set up and carry around. When I have to move everything from the ceremony to the speeches room, it's just I can do it all with. It's
really appealing to me, I'll be honest, especially like the monopods that I've got, like, which are the fast adjustable ones, like you just twist and flick up. Like, it's mega. Because I need a tripod that just extends itself and collapses itself.
Right?
Oh man, it takes me 4 hours to put a tripod out. I'm sure it does.
I hate it. And then when you have to move it and all the legs are going everywhere, I hate it.
The battle. One thing I forgot to ask you earlier, are you using a gimbal at all at any point? Because I know there's usually quite often a movement during your confetti walk, but nice smooth movement. Is that a gimbal, or are you just got some handheld action going on?
I don't use a gimbal anymore. I used to a few years ago. I still have it. It's too much to set up. Again, it's that use less things, be worried about less things. Yeah, I just can't be bothered to get it out and calibrate it for each camera. And my quick release plates they're all different from all my tripods, all my monopods, the gimbal, they're all different. So I have to really, if I need to change things around, I have to redo the plates, and it's just too much faff. So I don't use it anymore. I just use it handheld.
You don't need it, mate, I tell you, because your confetti shots, like when you're moving, look lovely. And I was thinking that must probably be a gimbal, but what kind of focal length are you using for a confetti walk? I mean, would your 35 come out for that now?
I think nowadays, if there's a lot of guests, especially if they're further out, the 35 is great because you get most of the guests in.
Yeah.
I used to use the 50, but now I find they get too close too quickly. And a lot of the photographers have started using wider lenses for those because I'm elbow to elbow with them. That 35 does a good job for that, I find.
Like Usain Bolt coming down the confetti run at you. Oh my God, please slow down. The only time they slow down is for that dip kiss that I can't capture.
Yeah, because you're running backwards.
Right, so we were going to dive into a little bit of talk about kind of work-life balance, which I find a really interesting conversation for people in our industry, because it really is a juggle, isn't it, with our kind of lifestyle and how we work, trying to make time for our life as well, because especially at kind of like the summer points, we're working at the weekends, we're having to edit all through the week, and especially as videographers, it's quite an intense workload that we have to keep on top of. So yeah, and quite specifically, I know you'd mentioned to me before, with your pregnancy, how was that, negotiating that, being self-employed and having to kind of and in the job that we're in, having to negotiate being pregnant and your business as well, and keeping your business running?
Yeah, it was a difficult time, but it was also quite lucky because I got pregnant during COVID. It was in like May 2020. So everything was locked down. All my weddings had been postponed anyway or cancelled. So I didn't have to do too many decisions during that summer because no weddings were happening. I know that so many women that do fall pregnant end up having to shoot throughout. And then if something goes wrong, if they have a difficult pregnancy, they then have to find cover for the weddings or make decisions to just cancel those weddings anyway. So I had one wedding that year. It's really funny because in my hard drives, I've got like the 2020 folder. It says weddings 2020, and there's one wedding in there. Like, this doesn't even need a tumbleweed. Yeah, it was a pathetic year. But it was really when it was the year after that I had to cancel a lot of my weddings. And because I hadn't planned it, I didn't really think, oh, I'm going to not take on any weddings that year because I might have a baby then. I don't think that's something that anyone can navigate really in advance. So yeah, as soon as you're not meant to tell anyone that you're pregnant until you're like 3 months in.
Yeah.
But for the first 3 months, all I could think about was, what am I going to do about my weddings? I've got clients messaging me being like, we're so excited. What meal options would you want? And you're like, oh, I don't know if I can even do this one. So I sort of, I went on the wedding videography Facebook group and I started listing the weddings that I had to get rid of, asking people if they could take them so that I could send people a list of people that I recommend, so that I wasn't just leaving them on thin ice. And then I got a videographer come through saying, oh, I could associate shoot it for you if you wanted. And that hadn't even occurred to me until then. I'd never thought that was something that people did often. Now obviously I realize it's quite a big thing. So whichever weddings he could do, I then passed over to him to film for me, which was, I think, the best thing I could have done, and had to cancel and return a bunch of deposits. Maybe like 13 weddings or something. Oh, wow. Which a lot of them then got postponed into the next year, and some of them then I could do again, which was...
Did some of them come back to you then when they got postponed and said, we've changed the date? Are you available? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Then when they changed the date, then I'd be like, oh, I can do that one. Then my associate doesn't have to, because I'd be available for it. But that was very, very stressful because I didn't know how people were going to react. I mean, you're sat there thinking that you're the most important thing to these clients. Like, really, at the end of the day, you're just a supplier and they will survive without you. But when you have to message them and say, I have to cancel you because of this thing that's going on, you just feel like you don't want to put that on people. You feel like you're going for a breakup. Yeah, exactly. It's not you, it's me. But everyone was really lovely. Obviously, they can't say anything negative about it. They were all very, congratulations. And it's so difficult navigating that sort of, when do I then start keeping the weddings that I could film myself? And you're speaking to other moms saying, how long did you wait before going out to film weddings? Like, I don't know what a newborn is like. When can you leave them? 1 month? 4 months? You don't know. And don't know what it depends on the baby, doesn't it? It depends on the baby. Yeah. So you just sat there like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I'm going to leave this wedding and give that one away. It was really difficult, just not knowing what to expect. And I found during that period, it was also, COVID, no one was leaving their house. But because I felt like I was on a completely different train of life in general, just like pregnancy, reading up on parenthood, planning all this other life. And I just couldn't bear seeing the industry move forward sort of without me in that bubble. Yeah. And I did feel very left out, not because people were making me feel left out, but that's not what I was thinking about at the time. So I ended up muting a lot of like Facebook groups, people on Instagram, just because it was making me feel really anxious that I wasn't a part of it anymore. Yeah. And then you start thinking, will I ever be part of it again? And obviously you do get back into it, but at the time you just feel like the world's moving on without you. But then the associate work was, it was really good. It was tough getting footage back, thinking, I would have done it differently. I would have done more on this or less on that, but it was better than not having anything. And then that also meant that I could keep posting on Instagram and keep my presence alive in a way. Were you able to make the films feel like, did they end up feeling like an Agne's film, or was it obvious it was shot by somebody else? I tried to really narrow down the shots that I did feel were shot like mine, but it was difficult sometimes. Were you feeding back to them, like after they'd shot the wedding for you? Were you like saying, okay, next time more of this, less of this? Yeah. Was it like kind of like tweaking little process? Yeah, I was. I sort of, every time but also I did, at the time, I didn't have that much time to sit through every single shot because I had a newborn. So I'd get the footage back. I'd quickly look through everything and be like, yeah, okay, maybe you could have done this differently, but everything's great. And then months down the line, when I got to sit down and edit, I'd have so many more notes, but by then it was too late. So
they've shot 4 more for you by then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I can't badmouth them. They did me a massive, favor by taking on that work. So that was really helpful. But also you can't, in that sort of the months after you've had a baby, you can't just completely switch off and be like, I'm on maternity leave, because you've always got the Zoom calls that you're having with the couples, the emails, invoices, the edits that are piling up, even if you're saying, all right, I can't edit because I'm going to do this whenever, a few months down the line. You still have that footage burning on your hard drive, and you just want to do something with it. So yeah, whenever my daughter started going to nursery at 7 months for like 3 hours a day, 2 days a week, that was when I was like, I could really get so much editing done. And I became a lot more efficient at editing, a lot less picky and faffy with like each and every shot, each and every song. I feel like now I've started taking a lot more time again. But in that first year, I think especially because the footage wasn't mine, I didn't feel so precious about it, which was nice. I sort of looked through it and I was like, no, I wouldn't have filmed that. I would just pick out the shots that I would have kind of done, and that would have made up the whole film. So there wasn't too much to cull down. So it made my editing a lot quicker, I'll tell you that.
For people that are expecting that, specifically videographers, because I'm saying videographers because I feel like our post-wedding workflow is a lot more intense than other suppliers. What would be your main tips is in getting prepared for being able to continue work to a certain extent once the baby comes?
I think definitely let your clients know that there's going to be a delay, and keep that, like, be realistic about that, because no matter how much time you have, you're still underslept. You don't have the capacity in your brain when you do have a minute to then sit and be like, right, I'm going to edit a wedding film, because there's so much more going on. And it's very important stuff, but caring for a baby, and you don't know what you're doing that first time. So you're learning on the job. So I feel like the advice that I'd give is try to give yourself that full year, the first year, with less weddings to edit. I know that people can't say no to work because they need the money and they don't get good maternity pay. But the stress of trying to go through that edit queue when you're having to learn another full-time job is very difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe hire an editor. I had that. I'd hired an editor for a little bit, but he just culled my work for me because I put so much of myself into my edits. I found I wouldn't even know where to start getting someone else to edit a full film. So I'd hired an editor to cull some weddings for me. Basically just like drop everything onto the timeline so that I could sit down and start, putting the music on and cutting it down.
That's a really big help as well. Did they do any of the multicams for you as well, or was it just the culling?
I don't remember. No, so I'd do the full ceremony, the full speeches, multicams, because I don't need to think. I just cut. And then I would send that off to them and say, pick out the best parts of the speeches that you think. And I could always go back and have a look quickly just to make sure that there wasn't anything that they've missed. But I'd always say, the bit from Dad's speech where he talks about the bride as a little girl, groom saying nice things about the bride, all of that,
Yeah. It's obvious, isn't it? And
it's obvious.
And a lot of the time I'm looking for the same things in each one, because people's speeches, just by definition, follow a same route. Like they do, don't they? Because they're looking online, they're reading things, they're saying, this is how you're supposed to structure a speech. So I always know best man speech, right? I might as well skip to the last sentence, because that's the only nice thing, the only usable thing that's going to be said.
Yeah, exactly. I love the bit where the best men talk about the groom as a younger kid, because it gives you a bit more of like a sweet insight. And then the end where he's talking nice stuff. All the bit about the stag.
People in the wedding don't want even people that were at the stag don't want to hear about that. So
yeah, please leave that in Ibiza. We don't need to bring it in here. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, so at what kind of point were you able to start stepping your work up again after you had your little one?
It took me a while. It's maybe a year and a half, because I was exclusively breastfeeding, so I couldn't be away from her for more than 2 hours. So the first wedding I'd planned to shoot after I had her was 4 months after I gave birth, but then that wedding got postponed, and the wedding after got postponed because that was 2021.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing my first wedding, I think when Eva was 6 months. And even that was very difficult because she just wasn't used to being away from me at all. She still is. Yeah. She's such a Velcro toddler even. Like she just she clings to me all the time. And I love that. But it just means that whenever she's around, I can't think of work it's just not something that happens. Yeah. So it's sort of like the schedule works around her.
Yeah.
So when she started going to nursery for longer spells of time, so from like 9 till 12, then 9 till 3, it really just completely depended on how long she was at nursery for. But then the longer she was at nursery, the more money I had to pay to nursery.
Yeah.
So it was this having to see how many weddings you've got that year and if it's worth sending her. It's an expensive first few years until that you get some help from, to send them off to other people to take care of.
It's so hard, isn't it? Like you said, like balance, it's, do we put them in childcare for longer so I can work more? But then are you going to be able to offset the fees of nursery with what you're earning? But then you also, I think it's more than that though. I think in terms of when you're a parent, you almost want a bit of your identity back. Do you?
Oh yeah.
Is that something that you felt at that time? Like kind of, you become a parent and you kind of, you obviously you live and breathe for your child, but you lose a bit of yourself in that temporarily to a certain extent.
100%. And when you do go back to shooting weddings, you're so in your element. And the first time I went back, I was a bit, worried that I'd forgotten. It's like riding a bike. As soon as you pick up your camera, you know exactly what you're doing. And it just felt so great to have people look at you and like trust that you know what you're doing, and no one's asking you how long your baby slept last night. It's just a completely different topic. You don't have to, you can just leave that at home for a little bit and then come back to it. But yeah, it really, I loved it, coming back into all of it.
Did you find your perspective of weddings shifted slightly once you're a parent? Because I found like it completely changed for me. Before I got into weddings quite quickly after getting married myself, so I was very much emphasizing with the bride and groom. As soon as I became a parent, I suddenly started seeing the whole wedding day from from the bride and groom's parents' point of view, and it really kind of opened my mind to what I should be capturing rather than just focusing on the couple. I should be really expanding my kind of thoughts further out of field and the other stories that are happening with those family dynamics. Yeah,
that's very interesting you say that. I feel like I see the day through a sort of a future perspective, and I feel like I always have, just because of, like I said before, filming things in my childhood and always knowing that someone is going to see it down the line, and it will be me that sees it. And now I'm watching those films back as an older person. Every time I'm editing, I'm thinking, which of these shots would their grandkids like to see more?
Yes.
When they're older, I'm almost creating the films for the generations that are gonna come later to look back and say, oh, look at how young everyone was. Look at how funny, Uncle Doug was, and he still is, but now he's old. Yeah. It's such a big family moment, not just for the bride and groom. And that's why I try to focus on those little moments, because as much as I love capturing the bride and groom looking gorgeous and looking into each other's eyes, and I do use a lot of that in my films. But it is about the family at the end of the day, that when they look back on their films, now they'll look and think, oh, we look great. This is awesome. That was a fun day. But 10 years from then, they're going to be looking at all the people.
Yes.
So I always try to capture everyone on the day if I can. And that's, during that reception hour, the mingling canapé part, always trying to like make sure that I've got all the guests. And then I find one guest that will never smile. And I'll make that my mission for the next 10 minutes to, yeah. Because it's, and like you said about seeing it through the parents' eyes, it's the parents' speeches now that I'm listening and thinking, one day my daughter's going to get married and I'm going to give a speech, or my husband's going to give a speech. Whereas before I'd be thinking, one day I'm going to get married and my dad's going to say this speech about me. And it has
that
changed.
Shift has happened, man.
Yeah.
And like I've got two boys, so I don't know, it feels like a different dynamic, but I cry thinking of my hypothetical daughter getting married. I don't know, it seems that with it, I think it's the focus is quite often on the bride, isn't it? And so it feels different. So but if with my boys, I want to give a speech at my boys' weddings. Because usually the only things said about the blokes are like the best man, right? And a joke, but I want to be able to say something nice about the boys. But
I've done a few foreign weddings, or where the groom has been foreign and his dad is obviously from somewhere else, that they've given speeches, because they tend to do that in other countries,
and
where both
Americans
dads give a
as well
speech.
do, don't they? Usually as well.
Yeah. And I love that, because the groom deserves a nice speech as well.
Yeah. They're like, don't just hear about Ibiza. We want the nice stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there much in terms of like from a business side of things since becoming a parent? Have you had to shift things around, change things in order to adjust to a different lifestyle?
I think I just do things very much inside my hours now.
Yeah.
Before you had kids and you can just finish a project by sitting late into the night to do it. And I'm very much, I can only start work when Eva's at nursery at 9:30. And I have to end by 4 when I go to pick her up. And there's no like quickly replying to emails at the dinner table. I feel like I just have never been able to do that. And now I've gotten into this habit of just leaving my computer somewhere else, which is annoying as well, because then when Eva is in bed and I start scrolling on my phone and then I go to my emails and then I start too late in the day thinking, oh, maybe I need to reply to this person. But when she is awake and around me, I just don't do anything. And that's more for the family side of it, not for my work suffers from it a little bit, because I do take longer to reply to things, only by like a day. Like I'll wait until the next working day, but I'm very conscious of trying to use this time and not regret it when I'm older.
Yes.
Like absolutely. I say, I look into the future a lot. I think I was very close to my grandmother, who died at 92 like 5 years ago, and she was lovely, but I'd always, like whenever I was around her, I'd always see the world through her eyes and feel like, one day I'm going to be old, how am I going to think about this and that? And I'm always like jumping into the future to see my life now, and I'm just really trying to just let family life happen, and work will follow. It does every year in September, October, I start stressing about my edit queue, about things not being done. And it always gets done. And no one ever complains. And so I just try to remind myself of that. Like, it will get done. Just enjoy your time with kids while they're little, because it's such an important time.
Yeah. It's incredible advice that we all need to follow. And having those boundaries in terms of those working hours is so healthy. It's exactly what we should be doing. But we fall into that trap as self-employed, that we always need to be on. And especially with our kind of like our clients as well, our couples, they're almost, I always feel like maybe they're expecting a reply straight away, but they're always sending replies at most ungodly hours, like sending messages at the most ungodly hours, because they're at work all day. Yeah. The only time they get to do their wedmin is like in an evening on a weekday or whatever. So and whenever I see that email come in, God, it's like an urge to reply straight away. But sometimes it's better just to turn that all off, enjoy your family life, and then deal with work as if it's like working hours as in an office.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I try to reply to quicker is like new inquiries that I know have seen my prices. So they've done, because I can see when they've viewed my brochure, because they have to put their email in to do that. So when I get a new email that says, are you available for our wedding? And I see that they've seen my prices and my packages and everything, and they've emailed me in the evening, I know that they've sat down together to do this Wedmin. And if I reply to them tomorrow, they might not come back to it for another few days. So then I do have the urge to reply to them that same evening so that they can, so we can jump on something.
Yeah.
But if someone inquires and I know that they haven't looked through all of my packages, then I'll wait till the next day, because I feel like they might not get hooked that quickly if they still have to. Yeah.
Whereas if they've seen the prices and they're asking about dates, they are keen to go. So how's that work then, in terms of, so when someone inquires with you, what's the process? Is it like an automated process where they get sent a link to a brochure with the prices on?
So I've got, on my website, I've got a page that says packages, and then I've just got the 3 packages without the prices. And then it says, if you want to learn more about these in detail and the pricing, fill out this form. And it's just a quick form that says your name, your email, and how did you hear about me, and the venue, so that I know where, the venue. So it's not long. There's no like, how did you meet? Tell me your story. It's just these little facts. And once they fill that out, I get an email to say that this form has been filled out, and they then get the link to my brochure, which is just on my website, but it's just a hidden page.
Yeah.
So they just get sent to that page. So they can have a look at it. Sometimes people go off the link, so then they fill out the form a few more times to have a look at the thing. And then if they want to contact me, they go onto the contact page and then fill that out. And then I get a different email into a different address. But then I can cross-reference and see whether the inquiry, whether they filled out the first form to see the brochure, because I can see their names.
Yeah.
So...
so that's a brilliant system, because with mine, I don't have my prices on my website. They fill out the form, it comes through my 17 hats, and then I have to press a couple of buttons and it sends my brochure over to me. It's not automated. But I don't want my price on my website because I want flexibility of what I'm sending out there. But I like that yours is kind of, you're getting that data from people inquiring, so you get who's inquiring, but then the rest of it is automated afterwards, so you're not having to do any steps, so it's kind of handling it for you. What are you using for that? Is that like a CRM, like kind of like Studio Ninja or 17 Hats or something, or?
That is, I don't even know, because I recently changed my website and my...
is it through the website itself, something like Squarespace?
It's through the website, so there's some sort of a plugin that does it, but I think it's something fairly standard, because it is just, they just fill out a form, and then when they click enter, the form will always ask you, what do you want to do now? Do you want to take them back to the home page? Do you want to? So we just said, take them to this page,
right?
The brochure page. So I get the form answer, and they get the next page. Which, if you've got the link, you could just go onto it by yourself. It's not like... it's not hidden. It's not that hidden, but...
So how do you know they've looked at that when they... Is it a certain contact page that they can only go to once they've clicked through that? Because when you said you got the message when they said that they've seen your prices, how do you know they've done that?
Because once they fill out the form that then takes them to that page... I then get an email through with the form that they filled out, which is just their name, their email, their venue. And then also it means that when they inquire and they say, are you available for a date? From that first form, I know where their venue is, which for some reason on the second form, I haven't asked them. Maybe I should, but I just, anyway.
So the name comes through again, and you just see, they were
name comes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I can then say to them, how much travel would be on top if it's further away than 2 hours. because I know what venue they're getting married at. I find it useful with knowing how many people are coming to the website in general, or looking at prices. Because sometimes I'm sat there thinking, maybe I'm too expensive. Maybe I need to lower my prices. Maybe my packages are the wrong length, and maybe I need to change something. But then if I'm not getting these forms through of people looking at my prices, I know that it's not that people just aren't, going on there. It's been very helpful. And also that's where they click on how they found me. Yes. And it's mainly word of mouth and Instagram.
Because that's the data I want. That's why I don't want my prices on there, because I want people to fill in that form as much as possible, rather than if they saw the price and like, oh no. I don't mind people like tire kickers. I don't mind it if like the budget's not right, but I want to know how they've found me, so I know what marketing things are working. But I like that you are doing the best of both worlds in terms of you're getting that data, but you're not necessarily having to do a load of manual work on everything either. It's kind of automatically taking care of itself. And then when you get them finally coming through that contact form, you know it's a serious lead because they know your prices at that point and they just want to know on dates.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. How do you find people find you? What's your biggest sort of source?
Google, Instagram, and recommendation, I think. Yeah. But then I kind of feel like Instagram can also count as recommendation, because it's certainly not from me posting, because I barely post. So it's almost when other suppliers kind of tag me or things like that, I feel like that's how they're finding me. So it's almost like a modern version of word of mouth, like Instagram.
Yeah.
So where do you find you're getting most of your inquiries from these days?
I'd say I get a lot of them word of mouth, whatever that means, and a lot more through Instagram since I started posting sort of more reels and stuff. But I'd say the photographers recommend me a lot. I tend to work with a lot of the same photographers, which is really lovely because we make a good team on the day.
It's great, isn't it? When you have those ones that you work with a lot and you know how you're kind of like in sync with each other. You know what they want. They know what you want. It's kind of, and you almost, as far as the couple is concerned, it's almost like you're working for the same company. Yeah,
it's the best. And it's like working with a friend, like with a colleague, but that you're like, I think we're so used to working by ourselves. I really struggled with that when I first started out, like all of
same.
My friends living in offices and having work parties and things. And I was like, well, I just sit at home all day and then go to weddings and get overwhelmed by the amount of people there. but yeah, that's now I think you work a lot more with similar suppliers because they recommend you, which I love. Like there's celebrants, like humanist celebrants that recommend me a lot. And sometimes the venues do as well, which is nice because you know that you get along with those people.
Yeah, I love those venues where you know the staff as well, and then they sort you out. They always sort you out at dinner time, and you thinking, I'm getting extra portions here. Yeah, cheeky little dessert. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Always asking for a dessert.
And it just comes down to like building those relationships, doesn't it? Across the board. I just love meeting new people and chatting with new people anyway. So I just love it. But I think going that extra mile to be like massively kind of like helpful and super kind to people, which is what we should just do as humans anyway. But doing that within like at venues and stuff, it comes back to you in so many ways, isn't it? Like, so many helpful ways.
Yeah, definitely. And it makes your day easier when their day is easier, because then they want to help you out. It's so much has to go right at a wedding to make things run smoothly and to run your way.
So Agne, I do have one last question for you, and it's the question that I ask all my guests, and it is, what were the biggest light bulb moments in your career so far when something suddenly made sense and helped you progress or find the path you wanted to take?
I think this, I was thinking about this the other day, and I think this sort of started as well with Philip White. I did a one-to-one with him years ago, and towards the end we were talking about getting to the ceremony and setting everything up, and there was never enough time. And I was like, how do you do that? Like, how do you go and set up 3 cameras and make sure that everything's done on time when everything's running late with the bridal prep? And he was like, just tell them you have to leave an hour before. I'm like, but what if they're not ready yet? He's like, well, it doesn't matter. Just tell them you have to leave. And I was like, you can do that? You can just decide when you leave? And he was like, yeah, of course. Like, just tell them in the call before the wedding. And when I started doing that, I realized that the couple really have very vague expectations of you, of what you're going to do on the day. So if there's something that is going to make your life easier and your video better in terms of, setting up the cameras the right way without stressing out and running late, then you tell them that that's what you're going to do. And when I started doing that, it just made my work so much easier. And like, for example, this year as well, I've started talking to the brides a lot more during the pre-wedding call about getting in their dress at a specific time, but then also telling their bridesmaids to start getting dressed like half an hour before that, because it bottlenecks so much, doesn't it? Bride's like, right, I need to get my dress in 5 minutes. Everyone's still in their pajamas. They all need to help her. And then all the bridesmaids are trying to fit into one bathroom, trying to zip up each other's. And it's all running late. So I started speaking to the bride a lot more about timings. And even on the day when things do eventually get forgotten, I just remind her that maybe you can tell your girls to start getting dressed now. Or whoever's got their hair and makeup done, maybe you can go and take the stickers off your shoes, because I can just see everyone sat doing nothing. And that last half an hour before the ceremony where you need to have gone already, it's going to be like, no, we're almost done. Just wait a minute. And so, just sort of very, very subtly pushing the day in a way that's going to make your life a little bit easier.
It's incredible advice, and that's something I've learned as well. It's because I think my fear initially was I don't want to come across as being bossy or a diva, but at the end of the day, we are the experts. We're at weddings all the time. We know, and they're going to want from us. They're going to want us to advise them on how to make the day flow the best, so they can get the best product from us, right? So it's actually almost essential that we do these kind of things and make sure. But like that exactly, I always say to my brides now, you need to be in your dress an hour before the ceremony, the hour before you have to leave for the ceremony. That gives me time to get all the nice shots that you're going to want, and then be able to get set up for the ceremony as well. And that's just a helpful thing to say to them, isn't it?
Yeah. And even then, an hour, they still run a little bit late.
Yeah.
But that you can then wait, 10 minutes over that time, you're still leaving with enough time to get there. But if you just keep reminding them a little bit. I've also now started saying, this all started with asking the groom where everyone's going to stand during their speeches, because I just wanted to know where to face my cameras. But they always say, where would you like us to stand?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, then stand there, because
the power.
The power is in my hands. Everyone stand in one spot so I don't have to keep moving my cameras around. Please don't walk between the tables during your speech. Or if you do, tell me. But just little bits like that don't really affect their day in any way, but they really make your life a lot easier.
Yes. And make them have a better film.
Make them have a better film, better photos. And that they don't have to be backlit when they're doing their speech. They can stand off to the side next to a wall, and then everybody can see them. Not just the film or the photos, they're guests as well. You just know where it's... You just know.
And it all just needs to be said. Anything you ask, you just said, it would look better in the film if... those magic words, and you can move mountains. People will do anything for you with those magic words. Exactly. You have the power. Well, Agne, thank you so much for joining us on this chat and your time and imparting your wisdom and your knowledge on us. And where can people find your work? What are your socials and what's your website? My website is agneharrisfilms.co.uk. My Instagram is at agneharrisfilms. I have a Facebook as well. Agne Harris. One uses their Facebook. I know, exactly. No one uses that. I have an automatic post to Facebook thing, which I'm hoping keeps something alive on there. But other than that... Just like our mums are going on that and things like that.
My mum is always liking things and commenting on them, and I'm like, thank God it's just on Facebook and no one has to read it.
My beautiful daughter, like love heart emojis.
Literally, from my last story, she was like, I'm so sorry, I just had to comment. I'm like, it's okay, Mum, no one reads those anyway, so keep going.
Bless our mums.
I know, they do our best. That's going to be me one day.
Looking into the future again, Agne. There you go.
I know. Stop it. I just can't wait to be old. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun, and yeah, I can't wait to listen to all the other speakers you've had.
Thank you so much, Agne, and I hope to meet you in person real soon as well.
Yeah, definitely. Have a good evening, and speak to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Coda podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and wouldn't mind helping us out, please consider leaving a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. We have many more conversations with inspiring filmmakers still to come, so make sure to subscribe to be notified when the next episode goes live.